Hi, this is Mark. Welcome back to my channel, What Burns My Ass. This is the channel where I tell you the things that burn my ass, and you tell me whether or not they burn your ass too. So, this video is going to be how the news media is dividing this country even after our national election and Donald Trump winning in a sweeping glory over Kamala Harris. And the reason I'm doing this is because I thought that these channels like MSDNC, that where Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough went and kissed the ring of Donald Trump, because they knew that their jobs are in jeopardy. Yet they still continue with this rhetoric today, and I don't understand how MSNBC continues to allow these people to say such things, especially Joy Reid. Joy Reid has said some incredibly damning, just underhanded, conniving, backstabbing comparisons to from Donald Trump to Hitler. And you're going to see this in these first segments. And also her racist tirades when it comes to other. I find her extremely racist, which is odd because she's married to a white man. And I also find her very demeaning. And I don't understand how any news organization would keep somebody like this on the payroll. But the first segment is going to be where Joy Reid compares the beer hall putsch to that Hitler had committed before he became in power in Nazi Germany. She compares that to the January 6th uprising, and is like, because she still believes, obviously, that January 6th was a true insurrection. And then the second segment is going to be where Joy Behar compares Donald Trump to Hitler again, saying he's going to control the media, go after all the leftist radicals, and then that's continued on by the next one by Hillary Clinton, where they're saying he's going after the people, what he refers to as the enemy within, which to me, I'm interpreting that as the people that, like what happened after George Floyd, the violent protests that happened in Charlottesville, North Carolina, and the gang violence is starting in New York City and some of these other sanctuary cities. I think those are the things he's talking about, the enemies within. But they're trying to make it seem like he's trying to do this Hitler-style autocracy where he controls the media, he controls the people, and if you don't fall in line, there are going to be, Nazi camps that you're going to be put into, and you're going to be repressed. And I think it's absolutely insane, but she obviously believes, at least she says she believes in these things. I think such things should be marked as opinion and should be stated in a warning prior to one of these shows where they state these things they actually think or believe, which are not actually based on facts. And then the next segment will be where Joy Reid blames white women for Kamala Harris's loss, which I think is racist. And then the next segment where Joy Reid compares us not giving gender-affirming drugs to juveniles. And that's the same way that Nazi Germany treated trans people. And then Joy Reid also makes this terrible, most racist statement I've ever heard a newscaster ever say on a national television program or any social media outlet. Actually, she said it on social media. But still, the fact that she said this and then it was released nationwide and that she still has a job is astonishing. But let's move forward with this video, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. And then I'll give you my commentary as we move along. But this is going to be much shorter. I think it's going to be a little bit shorter than several of my other videos, although this was quite a long prologue. But we're going to move on.
Trump, Hitler was also viewed as a clown, a goon who could be kept in line. And then there are the accommodations that the media makes with autocracy. In November 1922, the New York Times gave its readers their first glimpse of Hitler. It was a profile of the fascist leader's early rise in Bavaria in Germany that got a key point very wrong, asserting that, quote, Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so violent or genuine as it sounded. Before he rose to power, Hitler staged a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. It was a coup that failed. Sound familiar? Hitler went to prison for it, but the failed coup set the stage for Nazi Germany. And when he was freed from prison just over a year after the failed putsch, the Times offered this unfortunate and incorrect assessment, that Hitler had been tamed by prison. The next year, Mein Kampf was published. So much of this sounds familiar, and believe me, I wish it didn't.
So there you go. This is where she's trying to draw these comparisons from Donald Trump to Hitler, even though he was in office for 4 years. Yes, there was this huge controversy at the end of his first term, which I think there were some good reasons why that happened. But should have January 6th ever happened? No. And it's still my belief that had Nancy Pelosi allowed Donald Trump to provide the National Guard, none of this would have ever happened. So to make this comparison to what Hitler did to in his attempt to gain power is insane. Because first of all, only one person was shot during January 6th. 15 people were shot during the beer hall putsch. And it's not, there's no real comparison, although she's trying to draw those lines and make the comparison. It's insane. And see, that kind of rhetoric is the things that made people go after Donald Trump, because they like the two people probably that made an assassination attempt against Donald Trump probably thought they were saving our country from him. And it's from rhetoric like this and these comparisons. Now, the next segment is going to be about, it's going to be Joy Behar and her comparisons to Donald Trump and Hitler.
I'd also like to point out before we go to break, he threatened on a Veterans Day speech this past weekend, Trump threatened to, quote, root out the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country. That is, when you start talking about people as a vermin, that means that you have dehumanized them. And the next step is extermination. That is extermination talk.
It's fascist
And
talk.
it's
Let's call it for
fascist.
what it is.
I mean, I'm not going to invoke, but this is what the Biden's campaign said. On a weekend when most Americans were honoring our nation's heroes, Donald Trump parroted the autocratic language of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini.
Yes.
Now, do you believe these comparisons? That just... It's hard to put into words what I feel about that type of comparison. That shouldn't be on national television. People are too gullible, and they believe these things. And honestly, they make some eloquent arguments. I mean, somewhat. A lot of times, what they say there is completely stupid and void of any intelligent conversation. But sometimes whether it's void of any facts or any intelligent thought, they still present in a way that the most gullible people will take in, and they take it to heart. And again, that's what led to the assassination attempts. I think that's why this is very dangerous rhetoric. And this type of political shows and these political commentaries are things that are dividing our country. And if we don't start making some changes, it's only going to get worse from here. Now, the next segment is where Hillary Clinton does a very similar comparison. And I think she's just mad because she lost. But you'll see what I mean.
People would get legitimately elected, and then they would try to do away with elections and do away with opposition and do away with a free press. And you could see it in countries where, well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Right? And so all of a sudden, somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies, would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail. And they didn't usually telegraph that. Trump is telling us what he intends to do.
So there you go. See, she's trying to say that I'm going to be Hitler, and I'm going to copious say that before I become in power. And where do you go with it? Really? And there's a lot of people who are eating this up like they just, like a kid in a candy store. They just think this is everything they wanted to hear, because Trump is the worst person on the entire planet. There's no way he'll do anything beneficial for this country. And they're just going to spend the next 4 years boiling. Just like, Ellen running away. Oh, we're all disappointed because Ellen went to London, which is a much more autocracy type of situation than she has here. And that she would have under Donald Trump. But that doesn't seem to bother her. She just needed to get out of the country, because I personally think that she probably had the plans anyways, but this just speeded it up. but I don't think America's really mourning the loss. So the next segment is Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, again, making comparisons to Donald Trump and Hitler and the rhetoric and they actually are trying to say that Donald Trump is going to have stormtroopers that are going to bust down people's doors that belittle or put down Donald Trump in any way whatsoever, and he's going to control the mass media, and he's going to I think I don't know, are they trying to say that he's going to go to ABC, NBC, CBS and MSNBC and any other of these news organizations or YouTubers? They're going to bust down the doors and say, listen, you're knocking our president down and we're going to put you in camps and you're going to be arrested. That's happening in Canada. That's happening in England. That is not happening here. And until it is, I think this rhetoric is dangerous. And these people should be counting their blessings that they're the United States. God bless America. And they don't seem to understand that. They don't get it. Anyways, you'll see what I mean.
Joe, a lot to talk about in a jam-packed, scary stuff speech by former President Trump over the weekend.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, he just reveals more about himself. The Washington Post, of course, reported a few, last week that Donald Trump basically was making an enemies list and said that if he were elected president of the United States, he would use his position as president and start going after Democrats, start going after political enemies, start going after, and it sounded like arresting even his former lawyers who no longer defend him. So you have all that talk, but you've always had this fascist talk coming from him. And it was just a week or two ago that the Anti-Defamation League and many others were concerned when he was talking about immigrants, quote, poisoning the blood of America. And of course, that's, again, it's just sort of calls for racial purity, which, of course, I find absolutely fascinating since we are a nation of immigrants.
Now, do you see this? That is so racist. They're so trying to portray Donald Trump as one of the biggest racists since Hitler, and that's insane. Especially saying that Donald Trump was the first to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He brought across the Abraham Accords, which brought peace to the Middle East, and it was Joe Biden that brought back war to the Middle East, and also was the one that left, $80 billion worth of American military equipment for the Taliban to have. And now we have well-armed terrorists to face if we ever get into conflict with them again. And now that Syria has fallen, I'm wondering how many of those Syrian terrorists are going to get their hands on some of those weapons that were left in Afghanistan. But yet, this is what Mika Brzezinski and Joe, and they just recently, that's the hypocrisy, is they went and kissed the ring, but yet they still talk this rhetoric about Donald Trump, and it's so hypocritical. It's so, there's so many words that I can't even think of right now. The hypocrisy, the just lack of, no words. I'm out of words. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next segment where Joy Reid blames white women for Kamala Harris losing the election.
But in the end, if they didn't make their numbers and essentially exceed the numbers that Joe Biden had in the suburbs, and I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, but it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy.
Now, this is her again. talking. I mean, to me, that's racist. To blame a certain segment of our population. Why are we dividing our voters by race? I think that's wrong. And I also think dividing our voters by college degrees, or dividing our voters by sexual orientation, or dividing our voters by demographics like wealth and poverty and middle class. Why aren't we just Americans voting? And yes, I understand there's some differences between those segments, but still, I think that divides us. There's people with college degrees that have no common sense. They have no humanity. They have no compassion. So, in a way, they're not necessarily any more intelligent than people with less IQs, with less debt, and a paper and not having a piece of paper that says that they're intelligent. So I don't like the way that this goes down. But to me, what she did by blaming white women for not voting for Kamala Harris, I think she's trying to draw the lines that they were racist against her. And I'm sorry, but that's extremely racist to just say that. You have no idea why they didn't vote for, other than maybe they just think Donald Trump was going to be a far superior leader. Maybe they believed in his financial plans. Maybe they were tired of an open border. Maybe they were maybe they were angry at the way Joe Biden left Afghanistan. Maybe they were tired of how much money is pouring into Ukraine. Maybe they're tired of the amount of immigrants running through our country unvetted. But yet she's saying it's white women's fault. And I think that's beyond racist. And if it was said in the other way around, where it was a white woman blaming black women for an election loss, the racist rants that would go on and the backlash would be incredible. But it's okay when a minority does it, but when a white person does it, it's racist. And I think this is wrong. This needs to stop. This divides our country. Morgan Freeman said something a long time when he was doing an interview, and they said, I think it was with Dan Rather, and he asked him, how do you stop racism? He says, stop talking about it. Not only do I think Morgan Freeman is an incredible actor, but he's extremely intelligent. He's an eloquent speaker, and I just think he's an amazing man. I really do. So anyways, now the next segment is going to be where Joy Reid talks about how denying juveniles gender-affirming drugs is comparison to the way Nazi Germany treated transsexuals.
Targeting trans people isn't new. It is an age-old tradition, which Nazi Germany did with brutally violent ends in the 1930s. While the Supreme Court refuses to do anything about weapons of war in schools, today they seemed inclined to uphold Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. While the decision is not expected for months, a majority of the justices parroted a string of debunked talking points, all under the guise of protecting the kids, just not every kid.
See, now there you go. And the reason I left this picture of Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown is she also was upset about this denying juveniles gender-affirming drugs. And I think most Americans, a huge part of Europe, has really turned their opinion around on this topic, because they're trying to make you believe that transitioning a kid under 10 is only going to make the child happy for the rest of their lives. Or even transitioning a kid that's 12 and 14 and 15 years old is going to make them happy for the rest of their lives. A good percentage of the people that transition that young end up regretting it. And you can't put body parts back on. And that's just common sense. And what really bothered me when they were trying to confirm Justice Jackson to the Supreme Court, they asked her, what is a woman? And she says, I can't answer that. I'm not a biologist. To me, that should have nullified her contention right there. It should have ended that second that she said something like that. I don't think somebody who could say something that should be on the bench of the Supreme Court. And this is all coming. I don't know if you noticed this, but the non-binary thing is all coming crashing down pretty fast. And I think in another couple of years, we're going to look back at it and laugh. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that lost their jobs. I lost a job over this non-binary issue. And it's going to be gone. Within a couple of years, people are just going to look back at it and go, what the hell were we thinking? Really, honestly. Anyways, that's my spiel on her and also Joy Reid. And listen, I think trans people deserve all the rights of the world, but you need to wait to a real age before and you really, this is me. This is who I am. I'm proud. I'm a man who's living in a woman's body, or I'm a woman living in a man's body. If that's what you end up being and that makes you happy, like Caitlyn Jenner, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of other trans people, but people like that. If that's what makes them happy and they're happy for the rest of their lives, they deserve all the rights and the powers and everything that everybody else has. And so I don't think that makes me transphobic. But for me, I still say there's going to be a lot of people that say that I don't believe children under 18 should be getting gender affirming drugs. That I'm still a transphobe, which is insane because that's far from the truth. So the next segment is where Joy Reid is going to say one of the most racist things I've ever heard anybody say. She's going to tell white women not to support black women now that Kamala Harris lost.
Hey, I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly white progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends, because I don't think they're coming. But yeah, I think black women are now on the Save Black Women, Prioritize Black Men, and Prioritize Black Communities, Black Businesses, and that. And the black spaces, but Save America, Save the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Now, see, that's got to be one of the racist things I've ever heard. Oh, could you imagine if they said, listen, white women are upset and, black women are upset and they should boycott white women. I mean, that would be okay. But she's actually telling, if a white woman says, listen, we're going to boycott black women because, Kamala Harris is black and she lost. It just, none of it makes sense. It's so racist either way. Why is race playing into whether or not she lost? And now black women are only going to support black men and black businesses. And that is so racist. Black women can support whoever they want. White, black, purple, Hispanic. Does it matter? No. And her imposing her thoughts and her beliefs this way and being that arrogant, saying that she speaks for all black women. I think black women can speak for themselves. And they did. And there was a large number, even though she's trying to say that black women mostly went for a larger number than before, and then the 2020 election went for Donald Trump this time than in here in 2024 than they did in 2020. So you can distort the facts to anything you want to believe, but to me, that should keep her from ever being on another news organization ever again. I think that is wholeheartedly racist what she said. I think she should be ashamed, and I think if MSNBC gets dissolved, or they end up firing her for whatever reason, I don't think any news organization should take up a person who would say that publicly in the United States. I think she has a serious mental disorder, especially saying that she's married to a white man. So anyways, that's my video for today. And I hope you agree with me that our news media, these things like this that are what are dividing our country, and that there's too many gullible people in this country that believe this stuff and take it to heart, and that even if Donald Trump does a terrific job over the next 4 years, I think his life is still in danger from those people like this, or what he calls the enemy within. They are a danger to this country. Now, do I think he should round them up or get stormtroopers? No, but there are other ways. There's legal means, there's judicial means, there's legislative means to stop the enemy within, and also to handle the immigration thing, which I think that was one of the major reasons Donald Trump was reelected. But anyways, again, that's my video for today, and that's what burns my ass. And if I hope that if it burns your ass too, that you like and subscribe, because if you don't, like I said before, it burns my ass. So like and subscribe because I said so. All right, thanks for watching. And always remember, what burns my ass probably burns your ass too. Thanks.